Welcome to Indie Film Podcast. This week joining us, we have an amazing guest, Amanda Woods. She is known not only as a stellar hair and makeup artist, but also for her prowess in front of a camera, as well as her amazing directing abilities, and of course, the producing, the writing. Amanda, there's almost nothing you don't do.
Yes, and obviously with the theme being too many hats, that's why I invited her on.
Hey, just another day in my quest for world domination.
Because if there's anyone who could dominate the world, it would be Amanda. On that note, I'm Victoria.
And I am Chuck. Let's start, Amanda, with virtual effects versus practical effects, because I've seen some of your practical effects and they're awesome. Can you talk about which you prefer in a film, both famous and low-budget independent?
It's interesting that you bring that question up because that's actually a topic that has been the forefront of a lot of things here recently. So we've been discussing the difference between visual effects and special effects.
Okay.
And how they both bring something to the camera.
Okay.
And what ends up happening in the end as to which one is going to be more dominant in bringing the story to life. Personally, obviously, I'm a sucker for the practical special effect.
Right on.
I think there's something to the reality of it being right in front of you and actually seeing what is transpiring in real time as opposed to visual effects, which is predominantly done in post.
Yes. And we don't like to fix things in post in indie films because it's really expensive and we don't have the budget for it.
This is true.
Not to mention there are a lot of things that you just can't actually fix in post and you think you can. But I will say on the subject of just practical effects, to your point, I think it really does add something for the actors. Either if it's something on that or like a wound or whatever, just having it physically there already or there to react to, I feel like just gives them so much more in the moment.
Oh, exactly. You're exactly right. And there is a beautiful marriage that does happen between visual and special when it is the final product. But that is dead on accurate because you can react more generically. That was not what I meant to say.
I mean, you can react generically, but that's going to be a bad
That's where the
commercial.
visual effects come in.
That's where visual effects come in.
Yeah.
No,
Generic
authentically was the word I was trying to spit out, but it didn't exactly come out right. More authentically, when you are seeing something, when you have a throat cut, for example, and when that happens and that flow happens in real time, it is jarring. It's something that having that actually taking place right there in front of you makes a big difference as opposed to seeing it later. And it's like you have to imagine in your mind what is happening right now. We're going to tell you and you have to visually react.
Yeah.
And you don't know what it's going to look like.
You don't know what it's going to look like.
And actors are really good at playing pretend, for sure.
Oh, definitely.
But
this gives them an opportunity to give their best performance because it's going to be something to where actors cultivate a character. And with the help of the director and their co-actors, they create a persona. And that persona is driven by what their storyline is.
Yeah.
And something that they're able to do is react in real time as to how that character would be portrayed in that moment. And it takes away something when you have it all in post as opposed to it being right in front of you.
Yeah.
And that just adds to what they're bringing to the screen.
I kind of want to jump on that and just share an example because, Amanda, you were kind enough to help us out in the feature film Stockton to Table Rock.
Yes.
And we had a scene where a mother suffers a heart attack and she goes into the hospital. And your makeup work was the first time I've ever seen makeup work done on an indie film set because, we've always done like realistic fiction, zero budget stuff. And it's like everybody's in charge of their own hair and makeup. But the realism that you added to Jessica's character lying in the bed and looking like she's dying was really awesome because it would not have played the same if she was just, we threw her in the bed with the setting. It was like she needed to have those sweat beads.
Yes.
She needed to look pale.
no, you just use powder for that. Just add more powder, right?
Yeah.
That's how you do it?
No. Thank you so much for that. No, that was something that you're exactly right because we also did not allow the other actress to see her until she was already in the bed. Mm-hmm. So she hadn't actually gotten to see the stark difference of what that actress looked like before I got my hands on her. And then we sent her into the room and got her hooked up to everything and actually walked through what exactly had happened. What was this person's history? This person's history had to deal with alcoholism. What are some of the effects that come into play with that? Well, you have the jaundicing of the skin. You have all these other things that you're trying to factor in that are going to make that actually look authentic. And thank you so much for bringing that up. That was wonderful to get to work on that set that day, and everybody there was just so gracious. And I mean, what a wonderful experience, and being over there at Boise State and getting to, work there with everybody and get that set up to where it actually looked like we were in a hospital room, and it really added to that moment in that film, and it really struck the audience. I got to see it, privately, but then I did get to see it with an audience. And when that particular scene came up and the way that it played off, I mean, visually, you guys did a phenomenal job in your camera angles. That's part of the battle too. I mean, I can do my job as well as I can, but there's something to be said for the cinematography and everything
Danny's
of it
great.
too.
Yeah, sure.
Wonderful. And it really came across as how it was written. And so, thank you guys for bringing me on board for that. I really appreciate that.
The scene would not have been the same. But that was just kind of one of those things where I didn't know what I didn't know, having always worked in low-budget productions. And it's like, oh, this is something that is crucial to helping out, the you can learn light, you can learn sound, but then there's set decoration, and then there's realistic on-camera effects. And you bring the actual practicals into reality, which I think is important for an indie film because it just gives it that next level of polish.
So true.
Can you talk about the different roles that you've done in film? Because obviously, like, hair and makeup is something that I believe is that where you started. That's where you basically make your money, correct?
That's my bread and butter.
Okay,
is hair and makeup.
But
yes.
you do have, like, you've directed a film, you've written a film, you do a lot of producing. Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the like co-creators and main leaders of the Female Film Slayers as well.
Mm-hmm. Which is a local independent filmmaking group.
Yes.
And can you talk about how hair and makeup has informed your jumping into those other roles? Maybe differently than like somebody else that comes from like a writing background or a directing background or a cinematography background.
So interestingly enough, I have a very unique backstory.
Okay.
Because my family started out in radio.
Oh, right on.
I actually got my start when I was 3. I did my first radio commercial.
Oh, right on.
And then graduated up into doing,
You were talking in coherent sentences at 3?
Oh, girl. I could have full conversations with you when I was 2.
Man, maybe I'm just developmentally slow.
No, you're not. Not even a little bit. No. Well, it helped to have as many older siblings as I had.
Oh, because your family's a little bigger.
We're a little bigger, yeah.
Okay.
There's 7 of us that grew up together. There's 10 of us total.
Dang.
And I had 4 older siblings, and then there's 9 years, and myself and 2 younger sisters. So
That's a gap.
when you have that dynamic of having those older siblings, it really, like, your development happens a little sooner. So I was very much having conversations and talking much earlier than other kids were, and obviously,
So you got your first radio DJ job at the age of 3.
Pretty much, yeah. I did.
Nice.
I did a commercial for like I said, being in radio, our family matriculated a lot as I was growing up. So I was born in Boise. My sister, just younger than me, was born in Natchez, Mississippi.
Okay.
My baby sister was born in Graybill, Wyoming.
Oh, right on.
We lived everywhere between then and when we moved to Las Vegas.
Okay.
And we lived in Vegas for quite a few years. And while we were there, that's when I did modeling. I did beauty pageants. I did all of that. I was dancing from the time I was 2.
Yeah.
So I did all of that. I did my first TV commercial at the age of 5. And I did theater productions and everything else. So I literally was born into the industry.
Okay.
So it's something that was part of just the way of life,
Right
the
on.
way that it went. And then that continued. And, when my older siblings graduated high school, my parents said, we're going to move someplace a little more family friendly than Las Vegas, Nevada.
Lies. Las Vegas is the most family. Didn't you hear their entire ad campaign through the early aughts? Like, they're all
what
about
happens
families.
in Vegas is family fun.
It's
Yes.
family fun, yes. But mind you, this was also back in the 90s.
Okay.
So my parents moved us from Henderson, Nevada, which is, the little suburb of Vegas. Not so much anymore. It's all completely
Oh,
engulfed
no.
now.
Yeah, it's just one big town now.
Exactly. Up to Boise.
Okay.
And of course, I was mortified. I was like, why are you moving me to a hole in the ground? What happened here? And, because I was in those formative years, I had friends, and we moved up here, and I went, oh, goodness. But
Nothing's open past 8 p.m. here. What is this?
there was nothing out by the mall. No. Like, it was just desert. Like, it was just like, what is happening? But I was able to find my people really quick, being in the dance world and then being part of theater and doing that and then branching out that way. So that was something that really helped. And then I'd always had leadership roles in the different things that I did. So in dance in particular, I was captain of the Golden Girls at Capitol High School.
Nice.
I was on mainline at Boise State.
Okay.
And, so I had those leadership roles with my team. And so leading a team is something that I'd always done. When I attended Boise State, I was an athletic training and physical therapy major there. I was not happy. That was not the right fit for me.
Blanket statement. Not because of the program at Boise State University.
Because
we're so sorry.
No. Here's the thing. It is in my genetics, though. Because my second daughter, I have 7 daughters, by the way.
Which nobody who's seeing this right now will believe, but yes, go on.
7 girls. My second oldest daughter is, she is a kinesiology major from WSU.
Nice.
And she works in the neurology clinic at St. Luke's Meridian.
Oh, that's so cool.
So the apple didn't fall too far from the tree.
It's still there.
It's still there. And that actually helped guide into some things that I do. And I'm giving you a very long conversation here. But that leads to answering your question, because after the first 2 years I was at Boise State, I got married, started having my kids, and I wasn't happy, and I needed to find me. And my mom was like, you should go to beauty school. And I went, you're funny. And she's like, no, really, you have a knack for it, growing up in it. This is something that, you should do. And I have an older sister who's been doing it for 10 years, longer than me. And I have a younger sister who was in beauty school at the time.
Okay.
And I was just like, no, that's not my world. And she's like, I really think you need to try it. Mom loves this story because mom was right.
Yeah.
And first day at beauty school, I knew that's where I was supposed to be.
That was it.
And I continued from there. And that's actually, I went to beauty school with some of our known talent around town as well, including Danielle Cook. We were in the same beauty school class.
Which still blows my mind. I can't believe
21 years ago.
And you two you've worked together a ton since then.
Oh, a ton. Yeah. We've done so much together, and we trade roles off too. There are some projects that we do where she's the department head. There's some where we do where I am. And the beauty of working with somebody who you've known that long, you trust, that you can, delegate things out, things will get done on both sides, and you are a supportive team. And that right there, is huge, because it's not been just film that we've done. Yeah. We've done ballet, we've done theater, we work with Ballet Idaho, we work with Opera Idaho, and we do so many different things together. So with that being said, I have been on many film sets, and I've always kind of kept it hush-hush, the leadership roles that I've also done, because I am a firm believer in stay in your lane unless you're asked to swerve.
Okay. Got it.
And you respect the hierarchy of a set.
Okay, right on.
So if somebody doesn't ask your opinion, don't offer it up.
Right on.
But with that being said, transitioning into a directing role for the first time I did it was in 2023. And this story fell into my lap literally from a life experience.
Okay.
And I wrote it wrote it out and went, what did I just write? What just happened here? And so I sent it to some writers that I work very closely with.
Okay.
And I said, what do you think? And they were like, you're filming this, right?
Nice.
And I went, sure. Okay, let's make this happen.
And you did it.
I did it.
And that's the important thing. That's the crux between an indie filmmaker that's aspiring and an actual indie filmmaker is you have the script and you don't let all of the obstacles get in your way. You force your way through it to get it done.
Exactly. And that's the other thing where this particular project, everything happens for a reason. And I'm a firm believer in that. And timing is everything. So this story, I sat down and I wrote in July
Yeah.
of 2023.
Okay.
By August, we were cast.
Oh, wow.
Dang.
We shot in October.
Oh, wow.
And it was fully edited and submitted to the Cannes Film Festival January 1st.
That is really,
So
really
you're-
impressive.
you're
That's a
talking
It was
half-year
crazy.
turnaround.
Yeah.
That's-
Crazy.
And how many minutes was that production?
It's just under 15 minutes long.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. And
Wow.
we had several locations. I had an incredible
Ambulance.
Yes.
The hospital
So we worked
scenes.
with the Wilder Fire Department for that.
Nice.
And they allowed us to use the fire truck and the ambulance and oh, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the beautiful marriage of VFX and special effects.
Okay.
So there are shots in that film that are completely CG.
Oh, really?
What? Which?
Yes.
I've seen that film like 3 times.
Thank you, Sam Patzer, for being amazing at what you did.
That's fair. Sam is solid.
He is completely solid. And I am so proud of what he does and everything else. But no, what we did is we had a location we were shooting at.
Yeah.
And we had to use the ambulance and the fire truck. But because of our respect for the community of Wilder, the last thing we wanted to do was take their needs away from the community.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we actually went to Wilder
Okay.
and we shot at their fire station. So in the event that there was a call or something, they could go right away.
Yeah,
Oh,
Instead
smart.
of being all the way out where our house location was at.
Yeah.
So we set up green screens,
Oh, okay.
shot that entire sequence there.
Are you kidding me?
Nope, I'm dead serious.
Those were very well lit green screens then, because that you
It
don't
was-
notice any.
it was incredible.
Yeah, that's solid.
Sam knocked it out of the park for that
Yeah,
one.
nice.
But yeah, so that was a perfect example of putting that visual effect in there to where even people who have seen it multiple times have
no
idea.
idea.
Thank you, Sam Patzer.
That's awesome. Is your film streaming yet?
Not yet, because even though, it's been completed for a while,
Yeah.
we have it currently running in the festival circuit.
Okay.
And we are letting it still, because it's still making its rounds. And then we do have a couple very sensitive groups that are utilizing the film because it is a voice film. And it is a film that does resonate with certain topics.
Yeah.
And they're utilizing that currently for some different speaking and conferences and things that they're doing.
Okay.
And so because of that,
That's really
we've
cool.
kept it off of streaming until that's done.
That's really cool of
So,
you. I really appreciate
you.
that you're doing it because it is a very powerful film. It
Thank
touches
you.
on some delicate topics,
Yes.
but it's handled very well and in a very realistic way. A lot like how Stockton to Table Rock
Yes.
could have been so divisive and fake and everyone's super flat in both of those films, albeit different things they're dealing with. All the people are very real. It's very relatable. It's very true to life circumstances on how this would
Yes.
happen and play out. And that's really empowering for those groups. That's so cool.
The thing with that particular film, like I was saying earlier, is timing is everything.
Yeah.
There are people who, and I've said this, the whole time, is like, if you make a voice film and it resonates with even one person,
Yeah.
you've done your job.
Absolutely.
And we've had several times of people who have seen it, who have said, thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I needed. I needed that right now. So that,
I think Stockton's had quite a similar reaction too, especially after the run at the local theater here. There were quite a few people
definitely.
that felt similarly. So okay.
Yeah, those intense films, they do resonate, but
Yeah.
they're not easy to watch.
No,
a lot of times.
no.
It's like a homework film. It's like
So
do
true.
your homework.
I don't know if it's a homework thing, but I'm also that person that's going to sit there and watch all the murder documentaries on any given
there we go.
streaming service.
Same.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know if it's homework per se. Maybe I'll go watch like a comedy episode. Give me a Good Place episode in between a couple of these films. I'm going to go right back to it again.
There you go.
So speaking of murder, a question that
Yes.
just popped up for you, Amanda. If like someone is thinking about going from beauty school to creating gory practical effects, what do you recommend they do, and what did the transition look like for you from making people look as the best that they possibly can to making them look, like
Just
grotesque?
Whoa, excuse me. That's still the best they can possibly look, just in a
Fair.
very different
A very,
interpretation.
very different way.
Good point. Yes, the best that they could look like if they have, a knife in their chest or whatever the case
maybe
may
they're
be.
not going to walk down the aisle in that look,
But you'd be surprised that has happened.
okay, I need to know that. We will talk about that later.
That is a thing. That is
Okay.
a thing. But no, so when I was in beauty school, I wanted more.
Okay.
I wanted more. I loved what I was doing. I knew I had a knack for certain elements of it, but I wanted more. So
Yeah.
after I graduated beauty school, I apprenticed in a salon to where I learned how to do different types of hair, different textures, and all this
Yeah.
other stuff. But even then, I still wanted more.
Okay.
And so I started doing research, and there really wasn't a lot back then available to me.
Okay.
As far as like different things I could do. If I wanted to move to LA, then okay, yeah, go down there and you've got the Stan Winston School and you've got all these other things that you can do. But there really wasn't a large amount of that available.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of online research.
Okay.
I did a lot of online classes. I learned, okay, how do I create this? How do I make a cast? How do I, how am I going to do all this stuff? And then I ventured into the haunt world.
Okay.
And there is no substitute in any way, shape, or form of learning gore than doing it in a way that is real time with real people right there in your face and having to make it look real and not campy.
And for a point of clarity here, when you say like haunted world, you're talking about it's like a little haunted house, or I
Yes.
guess it's actually massive haunted house that's associated with or they're a haunted corn maze type thing. It happens
Exactly.
every fall, and it's
Yes.
they have actors that are playing
Yep.
characters, mutilated people, typical classic ghosts, haunts, spirits, things.
You got it.
And okay, so
Yep.
you're helping them.
So the way that all came about for me is not very typical either. I'm not typical in any way, shape, or form, apparently. So I was working with some friends doing some promotions, which is another thing that I do, and we were promoting a mud run. And it just so happened that the person who was, managing this property wanted to do a Halloween Land event. And he wanted to do all this stuff. And I'm like, great, have fun with that. And then about a week into his opening, he calls me up and he says, so I have a haunted woods that's not haunted.
oh,
I need some help here. And I know that you work with a lot of actors around town. And, is there anything we can do here? So, okay, let me see what I can do here. So I called quite a few of my little friends. Hey, how's it going? You want to go scare some people? They're like, sure. And they came out a few times. And then one of those nights, my daughter, who was 4 at the time, Mom, can I come? And I'm like, sure. Do you want to be like a broken doll or something? She's like, no, I want to be a zombie.
nice, good choice, good
And I
choice.
was like, I love this. Let's do it. So we brought her out, got her done up, did some makeup on her, and they took a photo. And it was as the sun was setting, and it was the most perfect shot that we'd ever seen. That photo then became the poster. It went viral, and they decided to ride that train. And for 10 years, I was the haunt director of Naya's Haunted Woods.
Oh,
That's fantastic.
And her name is Naya Woods. So
Yeah, that does also feel very fitting.
very,
But-
very.
Also, congratulations, because that means you still win. You got your first marketing commercial gig at 3. Your daughter had to wait until 4. So congratulations.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
I know there's always competition between mothers and
But
daughters. That's
my
healthy.
my youngest though beat us all. Like she did her first runway show at 6 months.
Oh,
there we
come
go.
on.
Come on now.
Oh.
And then she's actually more well known than all the rest of us because she's got a following on TikTok. She's got a following everywhere else.
Oh, yeah.
And
Kids these days.
and doing the shout out because she played young Maddie Zom in Maddie's EP release of You Might Not Like Her.
That's right. The song, the
Yeah.
music video. That's
And
right.
because of those 4 music videos that Miss Winter was in, she has a fan following that trumps all of ours.
Okay, she's also pretty cool. So
She's incredible.
Yeah.
She's such a cool kid.
let's give her the credit too.
Yeah. So yeah, she beat us all though.
Nice.
Fair.
Well, that'll
So-
be somebody to help fundraise some indie film projects then in the future.
There we go.
Right.
You
There we
gotta have
go.
that following.
Yeah.
And you know, and
Caster.
you can pull from you can pull from all the different eras because you'll have Naya from Naya's Haunted Woods. There's a haunt community right there.
Yeah.
You'll have Winter, and
Yeah,
bring
you
that
really
in.
set yourself up for success here, getting all your kids into this so that they can do
It's
some
a
of your
family
networking
affair,
for you.
man. It's a family affair. Well,
That's
and then
brilliant.
let's not forget the other ones, so we'll go into that later. So, I have incredible kids, and they're all amazing, and I could just talk for the entire show about them because they're just rock stars.
It's good to know that the multifaceted talents kind of does run in the family. That's cool. That's cool. But
Well, and you guys have previously talked on the podcast about another film that I directed called Pinky Promise.
yes.
And if you watch the credits of Pinky Promise, Liv is my daughter Olivia, and all of my other daughters were on that crew.
Oh my gosh, they were all.
They were all on that crew.
That's delightful.
My daughter Naya ran sound.
I was like, wait, no,
And
Naya was on. She was
Naya
the boom op.
was, yep. And Anya was a key grip, and Winter was the animal wrangler. And they were all on it.
So you're sort of saying it just based in the way you're kind of encouraging some of your kids to branch out and do more things here is sort of along the lines of how you got into doing so much more on film, and not that anyone ever would say just hair and makeup artist because there's so much more than that. But you're also saying get out there because on any
Yes.
set you're talking to everyone. You're talking to the DP, you're talking to the gaffer, you're talking to the AD to sort everything out. Like you're making the right connections and you're talking to people, but you're also never afraid to jump in and help out on a set where you can.
Exactly.
So I think that's really cool.
Well, and that's something that you learn that is so important on a set too, is because you don't understand what another department is actually doing until you've experienced it.
Yeah.
And that is huge. And there's a massive level of respect that goes into play when you understand what each department does. I mean,
Agreed, yeah.
and all of it has to work in order for the film to thrive. And so understanding one of the kisses of death is holding for makeup. We hate hearing that. But you
Hold for sound too. I get that all the time. I just make them wait. I'm like, you know
Y'all are
what? You
gonna
spent 30 minutes setting up that light. I'm going to take my time to get these lavs on.
It's so true, though. Well, but that's also right there. That's also a marriage of the two departments, too, because hair and makeup, wardrobe, and sound are
Yeah.
so closely connected when it comes to certain things like the labs
Lav,
and
yeah.
making sure they're putting them in the right place. And sometimes they'll be like, hey, can you put this lab on this person because it needs to go somewhere and I don't want to mess up what you just done.
And we just had that happen on a set too, where it was an all-male crew, and they needed to put a lav on me, but you were working hair and
Yep.
makeup, so they were
Yep.
like, "Hey, Amanda."
That's exactly the way it went too. Yeah, it was great. But and that goes into respect for the different people that are on the set too.
Yeah.
Because that's respecting the boundaries of the actor, and not just assuming that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, here we go. This is going to work better and everybody's going to be comfortable now. So, yeah.
It is nice when, and maybe I'm biased because I've worked with you a lot, Chuck, but I mean, the sound people, especially here that I've worked with, not creepy, not concerning. I never feel weirded out. They're always very respectful of boundaries. But as a tip that I give to most young female actors is the sooner you can learn how to lav yourself,
Oh, yeah.
the more you just avoid a lot of awkward situations.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's just easier that way.
Definitely.
Because
So-
the lav goes on the sternum.
It does go on your sternum.
Yep. Yep.
That's where it needs to be.
It's-
Nobody's lying to you. It does need to be there, but nobody other than you has to touch you to put it there.
Exactly.
But you know what's interesting though is there's been a few times where I've been on a few sets where we've actually had to put it in their hair. Because-
hair's a good spot too.
What?
Like
Yes.
you can
Yes.
weave it in somebody's hair, or
Yep.
like in a baseball cap. You can put it
Uh-huh.
up, or on a cap.
I thought
you
they
can,
just did that on Broadway.
Oh no, we've done that for sets before
Yeah.
many times.
I have
Yeah.
never seen that's
Yep.
so.
It
Well,
depends
because
on what you're
sometimes the
doing.
wardrobe is not to where you can put it on the sternum.
or for certain scenes of a certain style.
Exactly.
There isn't anywhere to put it. I guess I always
So-
thought they just relied on booms then, and there weren't labs.
no, we'll still put it in
you
the
can
hair
hide,
sometimes.
You can hide
yeah.
labs very creatively.
Exactly.
But you-
Which again goes back to what I was saying of the wardrobe and the hair and the makeup and the sound. We all become very close on sets.
You all need to work together. Okay,
Yeah.
so then kind of along those lines.
Yes.
What's the most difficult thing you've had to learn on the fly on a set?
Oh my goodness. You're going to love this one because I was thinking about this because I knew you were going to ask me. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily that I had to learn, but I had to be creative. And luckily I had somebody else there with me who had just as creative of a mind as what I did in regards to this, because we were filming a movie and we were at a tropical location. We were in Vieques, Puerto Rico.
Ooh, nice.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
It's great for vacation.
Right on.
Not great to shoot at.
Okay.
For
Pretty
several
warm.
reasons. Well, you've got the weather and the wildlife to contend with. It essentially is a rainforest.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you also run into the issue of the available amenities.
Oh.
And during this time that we were shooting this film was right as COVID was still going on. It was still, everybody was still testing and everything.
Yeah.
And a portion of our crew got COVID
Oh, no.
and had to be quarantined. And that included the special effects team.
Oh, no.
I was there as a makeup artist,
Okay.
makeup and hair. I was not there as special effects team, but obviously would provide support as needed.
Yeah.
Well, this then turned around to myself and one of the other artists being promoted to special effects and wardrobe. And, and so we're
is that promoted or voluntold?
a little bit of both.
Yeah.
You
It's
know.
like, got to get it done. We
Gotta
don't
get
have the
it done.
people. We need you to do 3 jobs.
Oh,
Well,
dang.
so there were some things that we had to create for these final shots because once we were released and able to we were all okay, we didn't have COVID, we could go back to work. And one of those things we had to do was a throat cut. But
Okay.
we didn't have the tools.
Oh, dang.
And there's not a store that you can just go down and get anything.
No.
They have these beautiful little tiendas there, but the tiendas only get shipments every now and then.
So unless you've ordered this in advance, it's
There's
not
no
going to
way.
be there.
And so we're trying to figure out how we're going to do this. So we go to one of the tiendas and we get a nebulizer. The nebulizer has this specific cord that is a soft plastic. And this soft plastic is pliable enough that we can use this. Okay, we got it. Now what else do we need? We need super glue. Okay, do they have it? Luckily, they had it.
Okay.
All right. We need condoms.
Every set always does.
Yeah.
Not for
Especially when
For
you're in Puerto
several
Rico for
things.
several days.
Well, you know.
back to that vacation thing.
But luckily, they had. Here's the thing: we needed non-lubricated,
Which are the
and we-
hardest to find.
Yes,
They're
and-
like
and-
impossible.
Yes, and of course they're looking at us like we're crazy, you know, because we're sitting here like, "Hey, we need this stuff," and they're like, "These little white girls are sitting here asking us for all of this. Like, what is going on here?"
They're asking for magnums, but they can't be lubricated. I don't know what
I
they
don't know
want.
what's going on here. But so we're gathering all this stuff. And what we created, her and myself, she's phenomenal when it comes to this. Shout out Nessa, I love you. We took this and designed with the condom, glued it flat, put it down with liquid latex, because luckily we did have that.
Good.
Connected that nebulizer cord all the way down, connected that, glued it to a straw, glued the straw to a water bottle to which there was a puncture in, filled that with the blood that we had to make.
Oh, dang.
We had to make that.
Yeah.
That's glorious.
And I have video of it. It's phenomenal.
That is
and it
amazing.
read so well, and man, that's called MacGyvering something right there.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate MacGyvering, because you weren't even at home or near like a
No.
Quickie Mart or a Walmart or whatever.
Nope. There was no accessibility to any of the tools that we needed, but luckily we were able to pull that off. And that is one of my favorite stories to tell people, because the final product of that read perfectly on screen. They didn't have to cheat it.
Nice.
They didn't have to cheat it. They didn't have to change angles or anything, because she was incredible with her, the way she stayed level-headed and worked through it and everything, and we're able to achieve that. That right there, that's my favorite story to tell about that. I love that.
Nice.
That is amazing. And I'm also very glad that nobody had a latex allergy, because that would have set y'all
That
back.
would've thrown it.
That would have been like, I don't even know what we would have done at that point. I mean,
I don't know.
Right on. Well, before we go, is there anything that you want to have, or any socials, or if people want to see your work?
Yeah.
Where should they check it out?
Because they should check it out.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm everywhere. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me, of course, on Facebook.
Yeah.
You can see examples of my work on YouTube. Literally all over the place. I've got several films that are on Netflix, on Hulu. They're on Vimeo. They're on Tubi.
So just
you
check
can find
the
my
IMDb.
IMDb.
Yeah. Go to
You can
IMDb.
find my IMDb, and you can just see the list there and check out some of the fun stuff. And I try to be really diligent on making sure that I'm posting on different things that I do.
Yeah.
Because I do so much
Yeah.
and I do so many different things. And so I try to make sure that that's, upkept as far as like the BTS, like you were talking earlier.
I was like, I honestly do. I don't remember if that was before or after we started recording. My apologies, but you are the go-to BTS and like marketer
Yeah.
person for every film locally here, especially without them even having to ask for it. So if you want to know what projects are going on anywhere in the valley, beyond the valley, but anywhere in the Treasure Valley in Idaho, just follow Amanda Woods on Instagram and you will be pleasantly surprised.
There we go.
Thank you.
Well, shall we end with a succinct farewell?
I think that sounds wonderful.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.